Welcome back to the Disney Cruise Line Blog Podcast. I'm your host, Scott, joined again by Emily and Isabel. And before we get started, we'd like to take this opportunity to invite you on the inaugural Disney Cruise Line Blog Group Cruise, sailing the Disney Dream June 2019, as well as the Disney Cruise Line Blog Group Cruise 2, which we just announced, sailing the Disney Magic in February of 2020. All the details can be found on our website. We now return to part 2 of our 7-night Mediterranean cruise trip report podcast. Last week we discussed our arrival in Barcelona, embarkation day, our day at sea, Naples, and Rome. We're going to pick up now with our day in Livorno.
And the next day was Livorno, so yet another port day.
Livorno. Florence.
So
Pisa.
this was another port that
we were dependent guests.
We were dependent guests today. Said to the family, this is where Isabel wanted to do the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and we could certainly do that on our own, absolutely no problem. However, I wanted to go. We were in Tuscany, so when in Tuscany, you go to a winery. So Scott was all for it. Isabel's cool with that kind of stuff. So Disney actually offered, shocking, I was very excited, a tour that was a winery as well as Pisa. And it wasn't expensive. It was a decent price. And it included lunch. So we thought, sure, we'll book it. We'll give it a whirl. At this point, we did 2 ports on our own and 2 ports with Disney, with tours. So, and we could have, the other option was to do Pisa on our own, or Disney had another one that was just to the tower. But then you have to, it's in a triangle from the port. So you have to go to the winery and then to Pisa and then back. It's not, we could have managed, but this was easy, and as I said, it wasn't expensive.
The price was fair.
How do you remember how much it was? I don't think I have it written down, but
the port adventure is called Torre Alcina Estate and Tower of Pisa. It's LV 100. Let's see if it's still available for next summer. Hey, wow. It was $159 for ages 10 and up, $144 ages 8 to 9, 7 to 7.5
They listed as an athletic tour. That's kind of funny.
Oh, there's some walking if you climb Pisa.
Oh my gosh,
that's athletic.
So we hopped on a bus to the winery. Our guide was adorable. He loved Disney. He was a hoot. He was singing songs.
He'd be an amazing club host or
yes,
cruise director.
He was great.
Val.
It started out with a horse-drawn carriage, which Isabel and I love. We were actually in a different carriage than Scott.
No, we were in the same one. You were just up front, and I was dragging my feet.
Because you were taking photos. But they gave us a tour, and we had a blast. We went through the vineyards. They do a lot of olive oil making, so there were the olive
Just wrong time
plants. Yeah, that was really cool to go around their farm. Then there was a 4-course wine tasting with food. The only complaint I have is that it was so slow. There was so much time in between, their courses, which were like little appetizers. They did charcuterie, with cheese and bread, and the stuff was enjoyable. It was just a little bit long.
The time spent would have been fine if the glasses were being refilled.
Yeah, they were not giving you a whole bunch of wine, although we were at a table with the gal that has to go on the Disney Port Adventure with you, and she couldn't drink, so she was kind enough to get her glass full and give it to Scott and I. And at one point, they filled Isabel's glass without even saying anything, which was also funny because one in Europe. But regardless, the wine was delicious. We ordered a case to ship home. Scott and I laughed because we didn't really bring any souvenirs from anywhere. There were no trinkets. So our souvenir was a case of wine. So we did a mix and match. They did have some deals where you could get free shipping and things like that, but it was more important to us to just get
what we wanted.
Varieties of what, different things.
How long did it take to get to our house? like 2 weeks after we got home.
A little bit longer than that.
3.
Yeah, about 3.
It was delivered it was packaged up in styrofoam. Not a
Not
dent
issue.
on the
No, it was
box.
perfect. Would highly do it again.
Within a month, it arrived on our doorstep. I think FedEx brought it to the
We
house.
still have half of the case left, which is pretty good restraint for the Sanders.
Yeah.
So pretty impressive. So we did that. It was lovely. They had a little gift shop and things. And, remember, too, that you can also bring back wine to the ship. So a lot of people they also had beer. So people were bringing wine and beer back to the ship. I don't know that there were a bunch of people that were buying cases, but some people were buying things. So then he took us to Pisa. Isabel wanted to see this, but it's a touristy thing. We all wanted to do it. We had to do. Isabel and I did the pose where you're holding up the tower. The thing is there's not much around Pisa.
There's shops. There's a Subway.
But at the outside of Pisa, it's kind of like residential and.
And there's no. We parked it was a 10-minute walk from where the bus parked into the area around the tower. And there's, just for frame of reference, you're walking from the bus stop. And once you get there, there is a cruise-friendly restaurant gift shop with complimentary restrooms for cruise passengers.
Yeah, that place was expensive.
And, we looked around. They had some gelato there. We thought, but yeah, it was tourist prices. It didn't seem to be one of those, local places, which, we had time. We had some time to walk around, so we went down one of the side streets and found a place to get some gelato and espresso.
And the espresso was fantastic because you can't really mess up espresso, but the gelato was not even remotely as close to being as good as what we had in Rome at that family place. And this, for the first time, when I could kind of tell what they were talking about when they said that they're not freshly made. Not every place has a freshly made. Isabel wanted Nutella flavor, and it was like a vanilla with maybe some Nutella swirl. I don't know. Isabel, it was not what they had at the other place at all. But I mean, Scott and I could drink espresso all day too. I mean, that's delightful. So, we walked around the shops. Isabel got a shirt. You get a ticket to return.
Yeah, think of it as an old school fast pass where you're given a return time.
Yep.
However, with being this is an organized Disney port adventure, our group had a predetermined time to climb up the Tower of Pisa,
which is great,
based on when we were arriving as a group. So we already had our slot for the day essentially, and so our guide went and kind of arranged our time, which gave us about that 30-minute period to walk around beforehand. And then we all reconvened outside the tower, which, it's a line. You go through security. You can take your bags, right? Or I remember leaving my bag. No, you can't take. Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Isabel. You have to put your bags and stuff in lockers, which they had in a kind of visitor center or the ticket place. I don't know if they were complimentary lockers or if you had to.
No, because we left ours in the bus because Val told us in advance that we were going to have to do this, and there was nothing that we felt we needed in that time.
He's like, your stuff's safe on the bus. We're like, all right, I'd rather
fine.
just
and it was.
leave it here and not have to worry about checking stuff.
And climbing the tower was really cool. We all liked it. Isabel had a good time. The view is gorgeous.
It's weird. The weirdest thing about Leaning Tower of Pisa is you're walking uphill and downhill while walking up and down the tower based on the way that it's slanted. It's the strangest thing.
Yeah, there were people that were having a hard time with it too.
It's
because it makes you kind of feel dizzy because it messes with your equilibrium.
Your mind is like, I'm climbing, but I'm currently walking downhill. But wait, now I'm climbing back uphill. It's strange. The nice thing is, unlike, say, what we experienced in Rome, while there were a lot of people in the area, with the timing of everything, they only let 30 people go up at a time. Maybe like every 15 to 30 minutes they'd let a new group in. But once you're up at the top, there's nobody forcing you to go down. Like if you had all the time in the world, you could stay up there all day.
Right.
So it was very nice. And it needs to be that way because of the stairwells, and
Oh yeah,
they're narrow. It's
hard to pass people.
Yeah, it's one of those you have to, work to pass some, going both ways. So it was fun. It may be the cliche thing to do in Pisa, but it was cool to go to the top.
Totally.
I mean, it was fun. It's, check that off your list of things you want to see in life.
Exactly. And the drive back from the tower was a little bit shorter than the drive to the winery. So they take you out to the winery first, which is nice because you get your lunch there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think lunch was like, I don't know, 10:45, but for the Sanders family, that's about our time.
Yeah, but it turned into karaoke on the bus. I remember that.
Oh, yeah. It was.
I wanted quiet time.
So, yeah, back to the ship, clean up the huge.
Lantern menu and Rapunzel's for dinner, the birthday celebration.
We did actually go see a show.
Well, no,
because
first
it was
we did more laundry.
And trivia. We did
Which
go see a show.
Tisa's trivia is not easy.
No, teases. And she doesn't give you...
She doesn't mess around.
No, she doesn't.
No hints.
We saw Hector's Magic because we are big fans of the variety groups, and he was in the Walt Disney Theater. So we were like, of course. And then to bed because our last port day was coming up the next day. And this was another one where I specifically booked through Disney Cruise Line because I wanted to go to the city of Ez, which is a little medieval town. So the tour that we booked was Monaco, Monte Carlo, and Ez.
V04.
To be perfectly honest with you, I don't think any of us feel this way. Have to ever go back to Monaco or Monte Carlo. The best part was sitting in the French, the little streets that were in Monaco, had awesome shops and places to eat. So I loved having the lunch there, drinking our rosé, eating crepes. But
our first stop was in Monaco.
Yeah.
It was right after the Grand Prix. So it was very cool to see the race course still kind of set up. They were tearing down the guardrails from...
Agree.
So it was kind of neat to see something that's a worldwide...
Oh, that wasn't first, Scott. We went to the Prince's place first.
Yeah.
We went there first. We went to Monte Carlo first. Because we went to the...
It's Monaco.
It's Monaco. Oh, yeah, that's right, because he's the Prince of Monaco. Okay.
And, so it was cool.
Oh, this is a hoot. Scott, you have to tell this story.
So the first thing, it was eye-opening. We parked in a parking garage for buses. That alone was eye-opening because all the roads are, say you go there and you rent a car, you can't drive on the roads. It's only for the local business owners and residents that can actually go on the roads, and they're narrow. They're like one way. So it's not really drivable.
Also, this town is about money. So she was like, oh, this is where Bono's house is, and this is where the yachts go, and this is the... it's not like it's full of rich history. I mean, it was fine. It was clean. Oh boy, was it clean, gorge. I mean, we saw a nice cathedral.
St. Nicholas Cathedral.
Yeah.
Where the former prince and princesses are entombed, along with
Grace Kelly, right?
Yeah. Princess of Monaco, Grace Kelly.
Yeah.
And after that, as the group progressed towards the prince's palace, which I can't remember the flag status. Was he out of town? I don't know. They were still doing the changing of the guard nonetheless, and we got to see that. And, because we were on a tour, we had our tour group. There were two lines to go in, like a general standby line again and a tour group line. The general standby line, when we got there, was not in operation because they were still letting tour groups in. Our tour guide got us up. She spoke with the lady working at the palace security gate, or not security gate, but the entrance where guests go in and you go through security. And you were allowed to take bags. They did the metal detectors. I think we saw an X-ray in there, but all of a sudden, half of our, the people on our bus, tour group, Pluto or whatever it was, half of our group got in, and the palace, person in charge of the line closed the line off and said, we can't let any more tour groups in. We're opening the standby line.
Yep.
And give her credit, our tour, group leader, guide, she gave her piece of her mind and tried, but I mean, it is what it is. She wasn't letting us in, and it was like
we all looked at each other and we were like, "Do you guys want to do this anyway?"
Yeah.
And Isabel was like,
Well,
"I'm hungry."
First of all, I was looking for an excuse not to go in.
What about you, Isabel? Were you super excited to go see the prince's house?
No.
And I mean,
This is the kind of stuff that you get when you book. And I mean, not every excursion that you go on has everything that you want, but I didn't really care for this part at all. Could have skipped this part, but it is what it is. The cathedral was gorgeous. She gave us time to walk around. We asked her, we were like, "What time do we have to meet back?" She told us
12:45. So we ditched the line and we went over and found a restaurant and had nice crepe lunch.
the guy was amazing. He was chatting with us. We ordered a bottle of wine. We got sparkling water. We had crepes. The crepes were savory crepes. So Isabel and Scott, I think, had like Isabel, didn't yours have like tomato sauce in it and
Yeah.
mozzarella cheese, and
It's like a
mine
pizza
had
crepe.
mine had mushrooms and cheese, and it was phenomenal. Amazing. And then we wanted to go get macaroons, so we walked around
More
to go
espresso.
and more espresso. But the thing is that we were like, we're in France now, so I didn't want to get pizza. I didn't want to get a sandwich, so
We sort of got pizza crepes over on this side.
Oh, you guys. But still, it was a crepe nonetheless. Now, I will tell you that the cost was definitely different than what we had been paying in Italy.
Yeah.
Because this lunch with 3 crepes and you pay for water, which is fine. We bought a bottle of sparkling water. We drank the whole thing, and we probably could have went through 2 or 3 more. This was about 90 euros. So it was a little more costly, but well worth it. We went to the post office and sent postcards. And then we got macaroons and espresso. And in true Sanders fashion,
We climbed back on the bus at 12:44.
and the tour guide was waiting out there. And of course, we were the last 3 left. And I told her, I said, "You said 12:45." And she goes, "Nope, you guys are just fine."
All the eyeballs staring at us as we get on and immediately pull out.
I'm sorry. This is...
If you want me there earlier, tell me earlier. I will comply.
Yeah, and she was cool. She was cool. But you know what? They were probably bored after going to the prince's house, just saying. I'm sure they were like, "Get us out of here." So then we went to Monte Carlo, and that was very neat. We walked some of the track, and but then the time was you could go into the casino, which kids can't go into. Shops. There was Café du Paris, and I mean they wouldn't even let Isabel go into the restroom outside of the casino. So.
In fact, she got kicked off the stairs to the hotel.
The thing is that all that aside, the stores that are like super exciting, we have those at the mall at Millennia. Versace, all those. Okay, I guess it's nice, it's pretty, but the espresso at Café de Paris was $8. So
Starbucks thinks that's funny.
so we just walked around, and this time we got back to the bus ridiculously early.
Why we're back on that subject, restrooms were hard to come by for families at that point.
Yeah.
So where the bus parked, there was a restroom for, kids were fully welcomed.
Right.
And, so it was a dud for us, but, not to mean it's not it was cool to still kind of go there and see those places.
Yeah.
See places that, are in movies.
Again, we could have probably had more time in Monaco in the streets and the shops, and less time in Monte Carlo, because this wasn't something that a lot of people, I would say, enjoyed either, or more time in Ez. So I don't think that we were...
It was just one of those that you kind of...
There really wasn't anything to see.
Yeah. I mean, you can walk in the places walk out of the places. And
Yeah, Monaco had that pretty park to go through.
Even at Cafe Dupree, it was still a long line. I mean, of people waiting to get in. So you would have sucked up a lot of time just to go in there and get a coffee. I mean, just to sit. I mean, our guide was like, funny, you want a coffee? That'll be the most expensive coffee you'll ever have in your life. But at least you can say you had coffee there. Kind of thing.
And surprisingly, Scott did not, which is unlike him. But
I'll stand on the line.
So then we were all kind of anticipating the, crown jewel, which was the medieval village of Ez.
Well, crown jewel for us, because it's one of the things it's where we really wanted to go that day.
So I was so excited. It was great. I loved it. I wish we had more time there. I could have had a whole day there. I could have eaten there.
I think going back, I'd like to just go there for the day and eat there.
Yeah, it was great. It was so great. Isabel, what did you think of Ez?
Super cute.
It was super cute.
What do you think about walking around Ez?
A lot of uphill.
But you weren't bothered by the terrain, though. It wasn't too steep or too bricky, or, it was
a beautiful view.
It was great. Yeah, the view was great. It was awesome. So yeah, this was Ez was great. You can go to the post to see a lot of pictures, but it would have been cool to stop at a cafe or something there. They had these beautiful gardens. That's definitely, it's another place that I could go back to. Very highly recommend. Loved Ez. So we went back to the bus, and that was that. That was that for the day.
We did get to stop off in like an overlook to see the magic kind of
Photo op.
The photo op.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was it was foggy at that point too, wasn't it? Or starting to get rainy,
the
misty.
Rain was starting to move in.
It looks pretty cool though.
Yeah. I guess of note, the tender was about a 15-minute jaunt from the dock to the ship.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So keep that in mind if you're kind of planning things on your own, the timing, and be aware of, the last tender of the day back to the ship. If you're kind of hanging out on your own, that was kind of our time in
Yeah, we had dinner, and then Isabel went to the clubs, and Scott and I went to a promenade lounge and called it a night because, again, so these are long, important, intensive days, which we knew, and that's fine. But it is kind of nice that you start and end your vacation with sea days. So, the sea day, I
kind of left it up to Isabel.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you want to, your call. It's the end of the trip. It was really two things: another day hanging out at the pool, or do stuff, around the activities around the ship. And really, the weather, at least for us, was a little chilly on the pool deck. So, and Isabel didn't really get to do a lot of the stuff, a lot of the activities around the ship. So,
and we enjoy doing the trivias. And as many cruises as we've been on, they're different. And
plus, we haven't memorized them, which I know some of you do. Don't even try that.
But Isabel likes, we do movie quotes, we do the Disney trivias, wasn't that the day we did the origami?
Yes.
Yeah.
We started out with like back-to-back trivia, origami.
Oh, yeah, we had a good time.
Then we went to another trivia.
Oh, then didn't we go back on deck for pizza, and they had like
Shawarma and pizza.
But that was the zucchini pizza day.
Yeah, but best lunch is the classic ships with the shawarma.
I know the shawarma's good.
And some ball sauce, which they warn you that might be too spicy for you, and then we laugh at them. It's the spiciest thing you can find on the ship.
So after lunch, Isabel, decided that she wanted to go hang out in the lab, which was fine. So Scott and I decided that we were going to head over to the Quiet Cove. But
the Quiet Cove.
Holy cow, the Quiet Cove was the loudest cove.
Right.
It was louder at the Quiet Cove than it was around the pool deck. for the kids' pool deck, the
Not
family
even
area.
remotely joking. It was like we went back to the family area because it was quiet. I mean,
It was quieter. It was crazy.
everybody was just sitting there, laying in the pool, watching Wreck-It Ralph on Funnel Vision. No, back over in the Quiet Cove, somebody allowed a group of people to go pop bottles of Moet in the pool, and which coincidentally they bought the Moet out on the ship. on that cruise.
Even our server at the adult area, the Quiet Cove Signals. I'm sorry, that's a good. The name was kind of like apologetic, like, sorry, it's really loud today. And Scott and I were like, it's fine. I mean, so for those of you who are like, we want an adult area cruise without kids, you can have it because the adults are often louder and act like children.
No. Honestly, walking through the Quiet Cove at other times across all the other ships, this was the first time I've seen it like that.
Well, it was also packed.
But
It was packed.
There
I've
wa-
never seen the Quiet Cove as packed as that, though.
as the bartender told us, there is this one group who has purchased all the bottles of Moet,
They did.
and they had it in the pool, which I don't know how that was allowed, but it was. So there was extenuating circumstances, and we weren't the only. The bartender did mention other guests have complained about this group, but
So
that's neither here nor there.
then, just to keep Scott after his Quiet Cove got ruined with the crabbiest, we had Isabel meet us to see Solo, which neither of them wanted to see, but
No.
I forced them ? To go there. But guess what? Everybody enjoyed it.
What are you gonna do?
It was great. So we packed, we had dinner, and Isabel did her last hurrah in the club, and we went to talk to our folks. That you always meet a few extra people, whether it be a server or
Keys and
bartender.
Promenade.
Yeah, we had our folks. We did our quote unquote say goodbyes, and that was the end of that. So we had that was lovely. The next day was going to be another long day of travel because you gain all this time going to Europe, and then you lose all the time going
'cause
back to the States.
We got off the ship and went directly to the airport.
Yep.
Which without traffic, we were at the airport in almost no time. We actually, circling back to embarkation day, because we got there so early, we noticed there was a long line of people waiting for cabs,
Yeah.
or taxis, and we had what time was our flight? Like,
It was earlier than Disney recommends,
Yeah, it
but
was
I
one
don't
of
think
those-
it was early. It was 11:50 or something like that. But Disney doesn't want you to leave before 1. I think. Don't quote me on that.
whatever it is, yeah, like Emily's saying, it's one of those Disney frowns upon timing. So we're like, okay, just to be on the safe side, let's get off the ship early so we can go and get in this line, because the line, I mean, it was backed up, and people with luggage, so we have our luggage, so not every car can accommodate everybody. So it's one of those, we didn't want to be stuck in this line forever and ended up missing our flight because we got to check in, we got to go through security and all that jazz at the airport. So we were there, we wanted to be outside in line before 8:15 at the latest. We just went to Cabanas for the final breakfast, because the see you real soon breakfast is not always at the most appropriate times, depending on your seating. And I don't know, we were outside by like 7:45. The best thing about Barcelona is you're not going through customs after the cruise. You just go into the terminal, grab your luggage, and leave.
Yeah, that's
So
nice.
that was, that's a breeze. I remember that happening at Dover, but I didn't even comprehend it at the time. But that helps speed things up, and being that early, like 8:20, we're probably the only ones, waiting for a taxi at that time. So we were taking, we kind of just walked up, taxi came, piled our stuff in the back, and we were off to the airport, which was only, without traffic at this time of day, was only 20 minute drive to the airport versus, that 20 to 30 minute drive.
But we got there so early that we couldn't even check our bags.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's fine. This is where you're in the Scott comfort zone because he does not like even remotely cutting it close except when we're getting back on a bus at 12:44 for 12:45.
I like to be in places early and wait versus getting there late and rushing.
But it was just so funny because we were there so absurdly early that they weren't even checking our luggage yet, which was fine because we had espresso.
Yeah. And
looked around some shops in the airport, read books.
Well, also importantly, though, once we were able to check in and proceed through security, which we were able to go and get our VAT refund, value-added tax.
Barcelona security was terrible, too.
It was a mess.
Oh, that was bad.
Actually, we lucked out because where we were going was probably where
still it was a
only
crowd.
About 20% of the crowd was going.
If we had to have made it by a certain time, it would have been a nail biter.
Yeah, definitely it worked out being early there. It gave us a chance to go and do our VAT refund, which took all of like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
They put it back on your credit card. Disney Cruise Line makes it real easy because these are taxes that you're paying when you buy stuff on board the ship in the gift shop. You have to like spend $100 on one receipt. There was a minimum you could, and it wasn't like your cruise total spending like in the gift shop on certain items. It was on a single purchase. So if you're thinking about buying something when you're on a cruise where they're charging a VAT, do you want to buy it all at once on one receipt so you can get the VAT refund? Because if we were to say buy the individual items throughout the course of the cruise, as we're just walking through the shops,
we did. We went back. We bought all our stuff, and then Isabel got a book, a puzzle book, from like where they have the novels and stuff, which I think was only $8, but
10.
It was okay, 10, but you paid the VAT on it, which again wasn't the end of the world.
We paid the VAT on everything, regardless.
But had we have gotten it the first time, we would have been able to get that VAT refunded. So I mean, it wasn't a big deal, but
you fill out the form on the ship. They send it to your stateroom, and then that's just what you take to the little kiosk in the airport. And I'm sure there's what's called the Global Blue tax-free refunds, and they, put it on our, credit it to our gift our.
Yeah, they ask you if you want cash, which they give you in euros. And since we were going back to the U.S., I didn't want euros. So I just had them put it on a credit card. They don't care what it is. I mean, you can give them whatever card, put it on there. It's not the card that you used or anything like that. It's very easy, and it was right there. I mean, it was like it's immediate. So it's good.
So as early as we were to the Barcelona airport, our flight to Paris was... We were at the gate, and so was everybody else. But guess what? There was no plane waiting for us to go. It was delayed coming into Barcelona. So, we're kind of sitting there like, all right, we've got a series of connecting flights today, and this is the first one. And, this delay is not sitting well with me, and I'm getting stressed out in line. Plane finally comes, but we didn't get to Charles de Gaulle until, like, this time our next flight was taking off.
Yeah, because then when we got to Charles de Gaulle, we had to wait for a gate. We were sitting there.
Oh yeah, we got to Charles de Gaulle on time. However, there was no gate for us to get off.
There was no gate, so we're like, and there was a ton of people on ours that were waiting for connecting flights as well. One guy was a pilot, and he was like,
my watch is telling me that I have an elevated heart rate and I haven't been doing anything for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that was crazy. Plus, you have to go through customs twice there.
Yeah. Luckily, and this is why I'm spending the time talking about this. Brian from Air France is the savior for all of us involved. There was another flight that had an issue that was coming in late due to,
from Greece or something like
Greece that had this connecting. We were all getting on this flight at Charles de Gaulle to go to Boston.
Yeah.
And so we had this transatlantic flight. There was our flight with about maybe 10 families.
I think there was 17 people total. Yeah. He said that's why he waited.
The two flights, and this Brian, he had the iPad with the
which I happened to just see. I was like, Scott, that's our flight number.
Yeah, we were waiting in line for customs, and all of a sudden we see this guy with the iPad, and we're like, we go over and ask him. He's like, yeah. We joined that group because we're like safety in numbers kind of thing. Dude's working for Air France. We're like,
well, let me just preface this really quick. I booked everything through Delta. It's not like I did one of these crazy. Okay, I'm going to get us to airport from Orlando to airport B and this price, and then I'm going to book this to this. No, I did not do that. I booked through Delta. It was some crazy, in the morning. I happened to just search for a flight because I was kind of stalking it every third morning or so just to see if there were any flights released or if prices went down. Saw this series of flights so I booked to Barcelona and home. Yes, it's 2 layovers, but sometimes it's worth it because I'd have to look back and see how much I paid, but it included 2 bags each to check, or one bag each. It doesn't matter. It included baggage. It was insanely cheap. We had no problem getting to Barcelona at all from our connections, not even remotely. And coming back, we didn't think we were, because Delta books you. It's not like they give you 15 minutes in between. So we were going from Barcelona to Charles de Gaulle on June, Joon. That's their little Europe hopper. Then the big flight was the Airbus, Air France flight to Boston. And then we took just a Delta plane from Boston to Orlando. And I know you guys are thinking, oh, that's crazy. But in the end,
the savings is worth it.
It was worth it, but because there were so many of us. I mean, this Air France Airbus was 3 seats across. I mean, it was a big plane with a ton of people. So to have 17 of us, I mean, I told Scott this restored my humanity in the airline industry because they waited for all of us. He backdoored us through everything.
Yeah. Brian fought with customs, the security people at the airport, and be like, I need you guys to. He got them to open up a whole line just for us.
And then there was a bus that we took that was because we had to go to a different terminal from June to Air France.
He he was our concierge essentially. He expedited every possible thing he could, and he got us to our gate.
And I'm pretty sure that the flight only left wasn't it only 15 to 30 minutes late?
We were in our seats, and we still waited around a little longer for some stragglers.
And we were just so happy to tell anybody, Scott used social media to just let them know that this was fantastic, because at a time when I'm usually the calm one, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to miss our flight. This is a dangerous situation that we've. I mean, one time I think that we cut it close, or it could have been just me. But there was a time that I recall, there was a little bit of sweating going on.
And really going home, it's okay to miss the flight. I mean, it would have been okay,
right?
Because you're not in it.
But then you miss your other connection. Yeah. It's a whole thing, and how much does it cost? And so this,
your luggage.
It's not like you're
and your luggage, exactly, Isabel. So, and that was the other thing. Our luggage made it home too, right. So it was perfect. So Brian at Air France, I just happened to look over and say, "Oh my God, Scott, that's our flight number." And he's holding an iPad with our flight number.
And we were like the McAllisters running through the airport.
It's exactly what we were like.
And we're like, "Do not lose sight of Brian." And
but the funny thing is you can't stop for anything at this point. So if you had to pee, too bad. If you wanted a macaroon, pass. There was no espresso for the Sanders. We were walking past all these shops. We're kind of giggling because we would have normally been like, we were joking. Oh, had we had the time? No time. Go right now. So we got on the flight. The Air France flight was incredible. You get meals. They served you breakfast. I wasn't even hungry because the flight. I mean, it was crazy. That was the movies.
Wine's free.
You get champagne as an aperitif.
We're looking at this other couple on the way over, and we're like,
they drank a whole bottle of wine.
How much are they spending on this flight?
Then they're like, no, it's included, and we were like, wait, what?
We just missed
but it was real champagne too. It wasn't like cava or sparkling wine. And I'm like, they're just giving this away, and here's extra bread. It was a hoot. So I highly recommend Air France for any of you that need to fly back and forth to your Air France. Was amazing. And then the funny part was that we got to Boston. We had a ton of time.
Yeah.
We had a ton of time. It was super easy. We did have to stop at the Delta desk so that we could get pre-check stamped on our boarding passes because it doesn't carry over.
In fact, this again is where it was awesome to have global entry, because we were, I don't know, of everybody that was on that flight, we were probably less than 10% of the entire flight had global entry. So there's only maybe a handful of, like, one or two other people in front of us walking through that line. So we sped right through there, and we were off to our next gate. And
we were walking around to gift shops. We were just chilling. And then our flight back to Orlando from Boston, which is usually full of vacationers.
It's the happy
I think there were probably like 15 of us on that plane.
Yeah.
It was so
Like, pick your
empty.
seat.
We could have all had a row to ourselves. The flight attendants were in the best moods because that was their home flight. Like Orlando was their home.
It was like, yeah, because we got back to Orlando at like 10 o'clock.
They were like, yeah, we're here for the night. And they were happy.
They let you switch seats.
You get extra snacks. You get extra snacks.
You get a row. After our harrowing experience at Charles de Gaulle several hours earlier, we were just so happy to just chill, and our luggage made it, and that's probably one of the best flights I've ever been on. Was just like, here, what do you guys want? Sure, you can have 10 of these, and everybody was in a good mood, and it was a very good experience. I enjoy Boston's airport as much as I absolutely despised JFK. I'm sorry for all of you New Yorkers that might like it, but man, Boston was a dream. That was so great to go through, coming from Charles de Gaulle. So, that was. You come back in one day and it's all those hours. So you get up and you leave the ship at 7:45. We got on a flight at 1 something, or no, it was 11:50. So like by noon, but it's a lot of hours. Mm-hmm. So you get there at 11, but really it's been, or we got in at like 10 or 11. And it's been all these hours. So we were pretty tired, but it was good. It was a good time.
And we had our personal driver Eric picking us up at the airport, which was awesome. Thank you, Eric. All in all, the Mediterranean itinerary. Do again?
Sure.
Yeah, heck yeah. I would love to go to Pompeii, to Florence. There's a lot that we didn't see. Capri? Sure.
Legitimately just scratch the surface in these places. It's not like a Caribbean port where, you see kind of like the main.
You could even go back to Rome and do other things. You
Yeah.
don't have to go back to the Vatican. Definitely.
You could probably go in the Colosseum.
Right. So yeah, it was an awesome itinerary. Definitely would recommend. And I thought we had a lot of fun. And we were exhausted. So we could have used an extra sea day. I don't know, those 10-night sailings with more ports. I don't know if I could physically take it without any more sea days. So that kind of that wraps up our podcast on the Mediterranean cruise. Excuse me. If you have any questions about this itinerary or anything we did in the ports, let us know in the comments, social media. Feel free to send me an email or whatever, and we'll get back to you on that. And thanks for listening. Have a question, comment, rumor, or just want to say hi? Call 321-765-3252 to leave a voicemail, and we just might include it in a future episode. You can reach us via the comments section on the website, email at contact@disneycruiselineblog.com, Twitter @thedclblog, and Facebook, facebook.com/Disney Cruise Line Blog.